Believe it or not, both of those gentlemen would go on to become governors. Welcome, welcome y'all. Taylor James Johnson here, and I am loving the 80s because the 80s was the decade of action, the decade of sci-fi, the decade of Arnold, and the decade of Stephen King. And this movie right here, Running Man, it gave us all of that and more. It's a dystopian future where everybody's obsessed with television and entertainment and violence, you know, like today. It's one of those movies where you can go, it's more relevant today than ever, you know, but it also has some wonderful action, some glorious costume and set design that only the 80s could bring us, a story that only Stephen King could tell us, and it features my second favorite time that Arnold said, I'll be back, because it kind of makes sense here, only in a rerun. And now let's do a revisit. So yeah, 1987, Running Man. And I'm totally okay that they're remaking this one.
Hollywood is once again scouring popular IP with the upcoming reboot of The Running Man from Edgar Wright, with rising star Glen Powell attached to the project. The Top Gun Maverick actor is certainly hot property right now, having just cozied up to Sydney Sweeney in Anyone But You. However, it was another actor whose star was crashing through the sky in the 80s who first took on the adaptation of Stephen King's short story, which was written under his Richard Bachman pen name. Arnie had just battled camouflage alien hunters in Predator, released in June 1987, and the same year saw him take on another action sci-fi project, albeit this time with less aliens, but similarly memorable action and one-liners.
Killian, I'll be back. Only in a rerun.
It was quite a departure from the original short story, but the movie saw the Austrian oak take on a dystopian TV show where criminals, also known as runners, must escape death at the hands of professional killers. Think gladiators with gruesome death by chainsaw, rather than a tame sponge mallet blow thrown in for good measure. Having just scored a massive hit with Predator, this kind of potentially risible action fare could have been a mess in the wrong hands. So could The Running Man continue Arnie's winning streak with audiences and the all-important box office dollar, or would his hot streak come to a crashing halt?
But why should I?
Because I'm going to say, please.
Well, why didn't you say so?
As a young lad in the late 80s, I spent my time doing the usual stuff. You know, skating around the streets of my hometown, Guns N' Roses blasting on my waterproof yellow Sony Walkman, trying my best to do well at school, and generally keeping out of trouble. All the while, my head was filled with whatever movie I'd persuaded my folks to let me stay up and watch, which meant that I had visions of sharks eating kids and aliens bursting through chests in my impressionable mind. Plus, a whole load of Arnie one-liners stored up, ready to be unloaded on me pals.
Don't disturb my friend, he's dead tired.
The Running Man had been on my radar ever since me and my comrades had caught the trailer during a Saturday matinee of some shit we were barely old enough to get in to watch. Unfortunately though, when we eventually managed to acquire a copy of it, thanks to a very liberally minded video store owner, thanks Freddie,
I live to see you eat that contract. But I hope you leave enough room for my fist, because I'm going to ram it into your stomach and break your goddamn spine! Ah!
watching the movie as just a young lad on a grainy old VHS copy was still a massive thrill. When The Running Man hit cinemas in November 1987, there wasn't a great deal of competition for the movie's demographic at the time. Fatal Attraction was performing well, and making people hide their poor fluffy bunnies from potentially psychotic ladies.
I'm not going to be ignored, Dad.
While Dirty Dancing was in its 13th week, and family classic The Princess Bride, which was only dropping off slightly week on week.
Inconceivable.
The only other male-skewed action movie still in cinemas was Death Wish 4: The Crackdown.
Who are you? Dead.
Which had already dropped off by 46% in its second week. So, TriStar's altered wintertime release strategy looked like it could pay dividends. From what I recall at the time, The Running Man was generally met with a warm reception, and it was certainly regarded as a strong project for Arnie, at least compared to the underrated and probably underappreciated Raw Deal from the previous year. In terms of production, the movie took a while to find its director, with Paul Michael Glaser first turning down the opportunity due to what he felt was a rushed pre-production timeframe. Andrew Davis was hired and very swiftly fired after the movie went a week behind schedule. So the producers went back to Glaser and persuaded him to come on board. This change didn't go down too well with Schwarzenegger, who felt that the change was a terrible decision because Glaser shot the movie like it was a television show, losing all the deeper themes. This was also heightened by the rumoured change in leading man in the movie. Superman legend Christopher Reeve was apparently being considered to play Ben Richards, and the movie would have been about an unemployed man who goes on a violent game show for a 30-day period to feed his family. What we get in the final version sees Arnie Richards as an innocent but condemned criminal, forced to kick ass in the gladiatorial game show. Joining the Austrian Oak as part of the cast is fellow Predator star and goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus, Jesse Ventura, as Captain Freedom. Plus, Richard Dawson is the immoral creator of the Running Man game show, Maria Conchita Alonso as Amber Mendez, and alien veteran Yaphet Kotto as William Laughlin. Rounding out the cast as some of the killer antagonists are Jim Brown as Fireball, Erlen Van Lit as Dynamo, Gus Rethwich as Buzzsaw, and Professor Toru Tanaka as Professor Sub-Zero. These are just some examples of the ensemble, and alongside the ever-reliable Arnie, his battles with the larger-than-life professional killers bring the movie to life. Interestingly, Paula Abdul, who once found fame dancing alongside cartoon cats, was hired to choreograph the movie's pre-show dance routines, with the music for these sequences coming from one of the Jackson 5's founding members, Jackie Jackson. This particular movie fan has always enjoyed revisiting The Running Man over the years. Younger me dug the over-the-top violence and one-liners.
Hey, Lighthead! Hey, Christmas tree!
And it's one of those films that if it crops up during a channel hop or a search through a streaming service's output, I can't help but get immersed in it all over again. Having rewatched it for the umpteenth time for this retrospective, I can safely say it still ranks high in my list of favourite Arnie flicks. And not just for nostalgic reasons. It's great getting to see a decent conversion of the movie, rather than the grainy VHS copy I first saw the film on. And while the premise could have hindered the movie plot-wise, it's still a highly engaging watch. As mentioned briefly earlier in the video, the story follows Arnie's Ben Richards, a former police officer wrongly convicted of a massacre. In this oppressive society, where the government controls the media and suppresses dissent, Richards is forced to participate in a brutal televised game show called, you've guessed it, The Running Man. Contestants are hunted by gladiators called stalkers in a deadly arena, and if they survive, they earn their freedom.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our Joe Blow channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
Richards joins forces with a group of rebels to expose the corruption behind the game show and bring down the oppressive regime. The premise for The Running Man is great, and although it deviates from the source material somewhat, there's some wonderfully nostalgic fun to be had seeing Arnie take down a series of tooled-up killers, like he's in an 80s arcade game. Real-life game show host Richard Dawson chews the scenery as the host of the Running Man game show, Killian, and given his past, it's a role he was born to play. He appears half-drunk most of the time on screen.
You see, I created the Running Man, but I don't make the rules.
And there's a nice parallel between the character we see behind the scenes and the fake, jolly persona we see on camera. There's also a ton of fun to be had seeing Arnie dispatch each of the professional killers sent his way to end him on the game show.
How about the light?
With them dying mostly at the hands of their own weapons. This is also one of the movie's slight flaws, and that there's a certain element of rinse and repeat with the action. But Arnie and his co-stars elevate the movie beyond this. However, the movie is really about the ludicrous action and social commentary on display, with crazed pensioners baying for blood and being rewarded with VCRs for choosing who gets slaughtered next. Plus, the series of crazy antagonists skating around with hockey sticks or the opera singing Dynamo are the real reasons to tune into the show. Plus, naturally, Arnie gets out unscathed without breaking much of a sweat. The Running Man was released on November the 13th in the US at 1,692 theatres and grossed just over $8 million during its opening weekend. with an overall gross of $38.1 million. Critically, the movie had a mixed reception, and on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a score of 67% based upon 48 reviews. If you take any notice of that particular site, of course. Roger Ebert awarded the film 2.5 stars and complained that all the action scenes are versions of the same scenario, but also praised Dawson's performance. The Washington Post were more impressed, saying that the film is a fast-paced, futuristic puree of Beat the Clock, Max Headroom, professional wrestling, and the most dangerous game. Pumped and primed for self-parody, the burly star proves as funny as he is ferocious in this tough guy's commentary on America's preoccupation with violence and game shows. Interestingly, on the movie's 30th anniversary in 2017, the UK's BBC cited the film as having successfully predicted some aspects of life in that year, economic collapses, and a critique on American television culture apparently being the most accurate. I also have to mention the movie's score by Beverly Hills Cop legend Harold Faltermeyer, which, despite not featuring anything quite like the earworm of Axel F, is still very memorable. Ultimately though, The Running Man still holds a very warm place in the heart of this particular movie fan, and I'm intrigued to see what the mega talented Edgar Wright can do with the source material in his upcoming remake, reimagining, whatever they're gonna call it. If Glen Powell can pull off golden lycra like Arnie can, and maybe even bring along Sydney Sweeney for the ride, then who knows.
Right.
Did Arnie and Co deliver another kick-ass 80s actioner that still holds up well today? Or was that lycra bodysuit and over-the-top action too much? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and we'll see you wonderful action fans next time here on Arnie Revisited. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. Joe Blow was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.